you folks ready?
All right, we are live here at the pond with our president.
Hi.
Here is Brad.
Good morning. My name is Brad Patassi. I'm with Joe Reinhardt's Southwest Area Type 1 Incident Management Team. I want to thank everybody for coming for this 9 a.m. operational briefing. This morning we're going to hear from Chief Torpy, Chief Tucker, myself talking about our team's zone, the North Zone, and then Rob Torres, who will be representing Duggar Hughes' Southwest Area Type 1 Incident Management Team, and he'll be discussing the South Zone. Right now I'd like to start with Chief Torpy. Chief.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, the time has finally come that we can repopulate Los Alamos, and nobody could be happier than me. Before I talk a little bit about how we're doing that and the process we use to repopulate the community, I want to take a minute to make sure I recognize the people who have helped us do this that I may not have in earlier news conferences. The New Mexico State Police, the Albuquerque Police Department, the Air Guard, the Army Guard, the Los Alamos National Laboratory, and particularly their security force, who's helped us maintain order in the community over the last 8 days, have all come together to not only have folks be able to return to our community, but return to our community and to their homes and to their businesses, and they're all standing as they were when they left due to the great efforts of our firefighting crews, and that makes me very proud that as much as this has been inconvenient for folks, they can come back home, and they'll be back home for the 4th of July in their homes by sometime late today. We did reopen the community at 8 a.m. this morning, making the announcement at 7 o'clock. All roads to Los Alamos are open. All traffic patterns remain as they were before we closed the community. What that means is, however you normally come home, with one exception. If you live in the Jemez Mountains, you can't go into the Jemez Mountains via State Road 4 out of White Rock or Los Alamos. Those areas are still closed while efforts are being undertaken to make that area safe for folks to travel. I will remind everybody, as I have for the last several days, that folks who have medical issues of any kind, please consider those medical conditions before you try to return into the town today. We still have smoke, although I feel the sun brightly on me today. It still can affect people's medical conditions. The last thing, please, if you're bringing your pets home, as I said, right now we've experienced no traffic delays, zero, not on any road. I've been all the way down to Pewaukee and saw traffic flowing at what I would consider to be about a 10 a.m. traffic pattern for a typical weekday. Those of you who know, 10 a.m. is after our lab hours, which means that's a pretty darn good way to get back home again. So take advantage of it, come on home, but be careful with your pets. Make sure that they're sufficiently prepared to return for a trailer ride for the horses, a car ride for dogs and cats, and bring water with you, bring things you might need in your vehicle in case you have a breakdown or get caught up in a traffic jam. There are 3 aid stations along 502. After you leave 285, those are staffed with folks from the Los Alamos County Fire and Police Chaplain Corps. They have paramedics or medical personnel in each of those stations, as well as water. If anybody needs water, they can pull off, and those folks will be happy to supply them water in their automobiles. With that, I thank you very much. I'm happy to be the first one to be able to tell folks to get home, but it's certainly not because of anything the police department did. It was a true team effort by all of the folks from the county, the fire service. We have 50 folks in the county right now working in what we call the ROC, and it's the Recovery Operations Center. They put this plan together, and they've put all the logistical pieces together to make it operational, and we're very blessed as a community to have the talent that we have. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome back to our community. It's kind of bittersweet for us letting folks back in because we don't want this to turn into a medical event, and we still will have smoke and haze. Tonight, people will see fire on the ridges. They will think those are in their backyard. Please call 311. Do not call 911 unless it's an imminent emergency. We do not want to overwhelm that system. There's a lot of police, fire, military vehicles still on the road. We are not done anchoring this fire here in Los Alamos. We are safe enough to bring our residents back, but we are not to the point that we're going to call it safe. In fact, the county probably won't be up and running completely till about Tuesday. And so the normal services aren't going to be there. We just felt the need to get people in their homes, get their pets in their own backyard, just to let them relax. But they need to understand that what they're going to see is a landscape that's up on the ridges that are blackened. They're not going to be able to go on the trails. If we get significant rain, we will have flooding in our drainages. They have to stay home, stay off the hills. They will not be allowed in the hills. There are roads that are closed down. But the main thing is we still have folks working in those areas. So please be careful. And they're going to, if they go out, they're going to encounter wildlife. And remember, the wildlife is stressed. You know, they're out of their natural habitat. Do not interact with them. Call game and fish. Please do not. We already know we have 3 or 4 active bears in the area, and game and fish trying to track them down, but do not interact with those bears and other wildlife. We welcome the people back, and thank God they're coming back to standing homes. It's just that we're not quite through this process. We are starting to tie it in, but we're just not quite there yet. So take it easy, give us a little more time, and we will take care of you. We have so far. Just don't overload us right now. The hospital does not want to get overloaded. If you have a health condition, just take it easy. Enjoy the force somewhere else, and then come back on the hill. Thank you.
Yeah, Brad Patassi with Southwest Area Type 1 Incident Management Team. I'd like to, first of all, start off with just giving the local public safety officials and county officials credit for the evacuation plan that they've been so diligently working on the last few days and executing it. When I drove into town today, I was expecting long traffic and the traditional scene we get when we lift evacuation notices, but due to the preparation and hard work from your local officials, it's a job well done. We traveled the nation responding to these type of fires, and this was an excellent plan by your county officials. The fire activity on the north side of the fire yesterday and last night, has played to the firefighters' advantage. We've had light winds. Unfortunately, the precipitation that fell on the east side didn't make any of the fire, but we've had crews in place on the north side of the fire just south of the 144 road that has been able to put in some contingency lines there. The fire is stalling and not making its way up to that 144 road, so that works in our advantage. When we go to the northeast flank of the fire near Santa Clara, we are having some fire activity in that area still. We've brought teams in to do some burnout operations. We've tied in with one of the local ranchers and are using his ranch as one of the anchor points. Had a very successful burnout operation, and we're not going to bring fire down on the northeast side just south of the Santa Clara yet. We're waiting to see how that fire activity works. On the east flank, northwest of Los Alamos, fire, as the chief said, is still active. It's just slow. So we have contingency lines in place. We have some burnout operations that we have planned. We're just holding off at those for right now. We don't want to put more fire in the ground than is needed. In the way that fire is behaving on the east flank of this fire, it's a wait and see operation. You know, hopefully some of these rains will start hitting this fire in the next couple days and we won't have to put fire in the ground. But if we do, we have the tactics and strategies in place, and we have very strategic locations where we would do that to help protect the community as well. So at this point, I'm going to invite Rod Torres, who's a representative of the south zone of the fire, to speak on behalf of his team and their operations.
Hi, I'm Rod Torres with the South Zone Fire Information, also with Bandelier National Monument. I'm glad to be back here in Los Alamos because I live here, and so it's really nice to see my apartment, and except I forgot my keys at fire camp, so so I can't get in. But anyway, in the south zone of the fire, we are starting to see some areas that we can call areas of containment. We're still working on extending those in the southern regions of the fire. Still some hot spots, still some areas where we're going to see some burnouts. So please don't be alarmed if you start seeing a few plumes here and there. That probably will happen today. Even though we got rain, it was 1 to 2 tenths of an inch down in the south zone. That's not a lot. For all of you who are experienced with the Southwest, understand it's going to take a lot of rain to get things dry again out here. We are working now from Bandelier south. In Bandelier National Monument, our next order of business is to think about preventing floods. And we have the possibility of floods with a lot of the vegetation being burned out of some of the middle and upper areas of some of the canyons, including Frijoles Canyon, where the visitor center is. So what we need to do is start thinking towards floods and how we're going to deal with that if we get some really strong monsoons this year. We're still working hard out there. One of the things now is a lot of the roads are still a little slick from the rains yesterday. So for residents who are returning to their homes or who live out on some of the forest roads, they need to make sure that they're driving very carefully. An additional thing in the South Zone that Sandoval County will be doing in the next few days is determining when it will be safe to start taking some of the residents who fear they have lost their homes or who know they have lost their homes into their properties to assess the damage. So that's another next step that we're starting to move towards in the South Zone. Anyway, we're pleased to see that things are starting to get back towards normal in Los Alamos. Thank you.
At this point, we'd like to open it up for any questions, and we also have the map available if you folks want to do close-ups and talk-arounds on the map. But at this point, do you have any questions for anybody here?
Yeah, Chief Tucker, the fact that the fire's not yet anchored here west of town, so I guess the fact that you're letting residents in, there are no concerns that you might have to evacuate them again?
One of the things we really looked at, one of those trigger points to repopulate was to make sure that we could protect the folks in their homes. There is an anchor. We'd like to strengthen that a little bit. If it rains again this afternoon like it did yesterday, that's what's helping with that decision. We're still not there. So it may be Tuesday, Wednesday, they may see crews up there burning that out because we have to get that buffer in there. So right now, because we had that little bit of rain and we had a lot of pressure to repopulate. And I think we had to kind of weigh the benefits versus the risk. So I truly believe that it is a safe environment. It's going to be a smoky one, but we will keep fire out of this community. We've done so far, and we'll continue to do that.
Chief, on a scale of 1 to 10, how vital was that rain yesterday in fighting the fire and your decision to let people come in?
Well, I don't have to wash my vehicle, so that helped. The sad part is it didn't hit the fire. It landed down here, but it created a humidity that caused the fire to lay down. The timing was perfect. You couldn't time it any better. It was early evening, and it laid down, and we didn't see any active fire. We had some fire up above where, like I say, it was above that because it didn't hit the fire itself, didn't hit the fire lines, but it hit this area, and that humidity surge is what protected us and protected the town. And it did allow them to get out there and to be able to go direct now because it is laying down. So it did moisture the area, and that humidity, as important as the rain was to the actual fire, since it didn't land on the fire. One of the worst case scenario would be a heavy downpour right now because we're just so at risk. It's going to happen sooner or later. We just hope as we're repopulating, people stay out of those drainages because it will take some of the hillside with it. The reservoir, the sad thing about the reservoir, they were just starting the resurrection and digging it out, it'll fill back up with mud. And I hope the dam, what they've done on dam holds so they can get that reservoir, but it's set us back probably another year on opening the reservoir. And that's my personal opinion, that's not an official statement.
How about the ski lots that was a big concern?
You know, that's one of the things, that's one of the good news that come out of this. The ski area is intact. We lost some of the outside, the trees between some of the outside runs. The ski lodge is still intact. In fact, Aspen House, it's the shed up on top that the ski patrol hangs out. It made it. It's an all wood structure. Everything, you know, there's some burn around it. Well, it took a significant burn and held. So when you stand at the bottom of the ski area and look up right at the lodge, you can hardly tell that fire was there. As you go to the perimeters, you'll see a lot of damage.
Chief, a week ago, as So what is it like now? This has been an incredible week for you, your crews, for everybody here, and you're welcoming back people to town, and there's not a single person in your town, not in the outskirts, but in your town, that you have to see them see their homes.
You know, that's a great question, and it might be hard for me to get through. So I will tell you that we are proud of our men and women, the coordination, the Type 1 team, the law enforcement, everybody that was involved in this, the public works folks. But the sad part is, their surrounding communities lost homes. So our heart goes out to them. You know, it's hard to express what it feels to talk to those folks that they're alive, but they lost everything they owned. They had 5, 10, 20 minutes to get out of their house, and they've lost all their possessions. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of the efforts, and I'm very happy what happened here. The sad part is there's 60 some odd structures out there that were destroyed by this fire. It appears, from what the Type 1 team tells me, is that there's a lot of other homes north of us that are now out of danger. And it'd be nice to come back and say there are no structures lost, but we can't say that. When I was here 11 years ago, about this time when we were letting folks back in, and they were seeing the damage, and you realize, you saw the people standing around their burned out homes, what it really meant. They were going through the ruins, they were looking for their pictures, anything that they could grab to bring back their past. Some folks lost everything they had. There was some widow, she lost all of her husband's photographs, her love letters, all of that. And that's what we're supposed to do, is keep that from happening. Sometimes we can't. And so the downside is this, emotionally, there's going to be a lot of baggage here. And those folks that get to come back have to realize there's folks that lost everything they own. Some insured, some not. But the bottom line is this event had significant impacts on everybody at all sorts of different levels. There'll be a lot of post-traumatic stress still for some folks, and I really hope they get help, get that taken care of. This is the last fire I'll ever have in my career. So for me, it was a good one. So thank you. That's it. I can't go any further.
Ron, can you tell us a little bit about Bandelier? Last we heard, the fire was about a mile from the visitor center, the ruins, and the other structures there.
Yes, the fire has pretty much held behind the line that was cut very early in the fire, up above Alcove House in Frijoles Canyon. Alcove House is one of the signature sites at Bandelier. The visitor center is safe right now. We haven't had any fire in the area immediately around the visitor center. A lot of work was done to protect the visitor center, and we're very grateful to the firefighters from all the different crews who've come down to help, and very grateful to the staff at Bandelier for coming down that first night when the fire was raging down the canyon to save the artifacts that were preserved in the visitor center. It was a real dramatic time for us, and we definitely appreciate everybody who's helped out and everybody who's supported Bandelier. We're still going to need some help come the coming months, because we are going to be looking at a future of recovery. And as the chief can tell you, the recovery from Cerro Grande was a big time of community gathering for Los Alamos, and I can see that at Bandelier as well. People are already calling us to volunteer, and we really appreciate that community support. The Pueblos who have sacred sites at Bandelier, and the staff of Bandelier, and also the Valles Caldera National Preserve. Those people really helped us out. They put some of us up during this fire, and we're going to work together to try to help this landscape recover from this event.
Mike, how intense did the fire burn through the parts of the park that burned?
As with any fire, it's a natural event, so it wasn't just a total blackened burnout. Going along the road in Bandelier, you'll see places that are still green and other places that are indeed burned, but it's a mosaic. And that's a good thing. It means that there's enough there to help the recovery, enough there to reseed. Eventually, we'll see the animals returning. I've even heard that people have seen 3 bears in Frijoles Canyon, and that's really good news for us.
Brad, can you give us the latest acreage, containment, and homes that you know for sure that have been destroyed?
Well, in terms of our zone where there were homes destroyed, we know that at least 13 have been destroyed. We know there are probably more, and we are going to have Sandoval County work with the residents of those areas to take them in and to do the assessments. So any folks who are listening who have homes and are worried about them in the South Zone, they need to call Sandoval County. I can tell you for Bandelier, and then Brad can give you the overall numbers, but for Bandelier, we've lost right around 18,000 acres of 33,000 acres. So more than half the park has experienced this fire. But that doesn't mean that more than half the park is black. Like I said, it is a mosaic in there.
Chief, can we get you to come back real quick?
Let Brett answer the question about the structure.
Sorry, Brad.
Back to the overall acreage. We're at 121,170 total acres amongst the 2 zones. We are happy to announce we're at 11% containment, which is good. And most of that containment is actually where we look at the fire and you see the fatter part of the South Zone. It kind of narrows off and it goes to the wider area of our zone. Most of that containment is within that narrowing area, so a lot of it around Los Alamos, both on the east and west side of the fire. We're working on getting the total numbers. Most of the numbers, the structures that have been lost have been in the South Zone, so those are the numbers that Rod reported. We haven't lost any buildings up in the North Zone, which is very good, especially with the fire behavior that worked through and some of the large pushes it made to the north. So, yeah, even on the Pueblo. So no residences yet on the Pueblo that we've.
How close?
How close is it to the residents in the Pueblo? Right now, where the residences that would be close would be on that northeast flank. Right now, we don't have fire near any of those residences up there. And the fact that the fire has stalled now just south of 144 Road is very encouraging as well. What we are working with the Pueblos and the governors and the folks in that area is that we're protecting their sacred sites. So we're actually dedicating crews to some of those areas in that north area that we're going to bring in over the next couple days, and we have plans in place to put protection measures and efforts to work on some of their sacred ground.
You guys travel the whole region, the whole country, battling some of the worst of the worst. Patterns of this fire have broken the rules when it comes to wildfires, have changed your tactics and changed learning behaviors. Could you just talk about that a little bit about this isn't just going through all of the training and all of the tactics that you know of, but this redefines what it's like to fight something.
This has been an incredible wildland season on a fire perspective. And we've been anticipating that since early on in the year. We knew that with the El Nino seasons bringing that humidity last year, and then this incredible drying out that we've encouraged over our region, the Southwest region, that we knew we were going to be in for a fight this year. And unfortunately, we don't like it when some of our predictions come true, and that one did come true this year. But with that being said, we have planned for this, and we've had the tactics and strategy in place early on if these worst case scenarios build out. Our team, and actually both of our teams, have been working hand in hand since May 8th on the Horseshoe 2 fire down in southeastern Arizona, where we saw some incredible fire activity in the Chiricahuas. Right after that, we transitioned, and then we went up to the Wallow fire in Arizona, which is the largest fire in Arizona history, the second largest in U.S. history. And then to come here and work on this fire, we've had our challenges, but the good thing is I relate it to sports in the playbook. When you're playing football and you're on offense, you have no idea what the defense is going to bring at you, but you're prepared for every situation. And so we've came into this fire season with a very extensive playbook. We've added many chapters with the fire behavior that we've experienced this year to that playbook, and it's just going to help us continue through the rest of the year and now in the future to to have a lot of lessons learned, and we will be a stronger fire service as a result of what we've seen and what we've learned from these years, from this year in particular. So.
Chief Tucker, you had mentioned earlier in the week that the burn scars on Cerro Grande were not helping as much as you had anticipated because they were so dry and had such low moisture content. Did that continue happening as the week went on? Did they help at all? Did they hurt? How did that?
Well, it's a different environment. It helped, but they didn't anchor as they normally would. If this fire had been another year, we would have seen a different environment and a different reaction in that area. That area, we had thought, we hadn't been on the wall of fire with Brad and the Horseshoe too. We had really thought when I was doing planning that it would kind of die down like it normally does. It didn't do that and continued to carry fire. So it wasn't a rounding crown fire, but it was a fire that continued to move.
Can you kind of go more in depth with your concern, maybe when night comes and people are going to see this fire up on the ridges?
Hold on one quick. I think that's going to be the last question for the group, and then after that we can break out and do a couple more. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, at night, if you look at these ridges that are way out there, at night it looks like it's in your backyard. It looks like it's 100 feet away. So we're encouraging folks to take a look when they come in, see where the fire's at, and realize it's not going to drop into those canyons, and realize what they're seeing actually is fire that's a mile, mile and a half, 2 miles away, and it's not in their backyard. So thank you, folks. Have a great day. Be safe, please.